Give it a second. All right, it says we are live. Hopefully that is accurate. And we are streaming here today with Randy. Randy, first of all, thank you so much for taking time to be here with me today. I've been really looking forward to this conversation and seeing you. And I know that we've been spending the last few minutes before we went live catching up a bit, but just thank you again for taking the time to be here. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share what I have and help you out too, because you are amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And just for people who are tuning in now or later for the replay, just to give you a little context about who Randy is and why we're having this conversation. Randy and I have actually known each other a long time. Oh my goodness, I don't know, 15, maybe longer years. I'm not even sure at this point, but we met in college and I actually invested in Randy's support and services way before he ever invested in mine. He actually in college was teaching me to ballroom dance. So that was one of the ways I invested in myself back in college. So that's how Randy and I first met and became friends. And then really didn't stay necessarily super connected since college, but stayed loosely connected through the wonderful world of social media. And then found each other again and really more deeply reconnected sometime last year. Tell me a little bit about, I know, but I want our audience to know, what have you been doing since our ballroom time in college?
Well, I did still teach dance on the side. And then I was a middle school science teacher for 13 years. Did that. I loved it, missed the students, but there was just a lot of things that were happening in the education system that were burning me out. So then I was really looking for a change and I found myself into a sales position. And I was watching your lives and getting all the information and went, you know what, I need to talk to her because I'm still pretty green to the sales mentality. So I wanted to get some help. So I reached out to you and then we did some coaching sessions and kind of helped me to refine my sales pitch and refine my sales techniques.
Yay, I love it. I love it. And I know that for those who don't know me very well or at all, because you're here because you know and love Randy, I'm Cassandra Quinn, and I am a growth advisor for socially conscious businesses. So I partner with socially conscious businesses and organizations to help them maximize their impact and their profit. I really have a triple bottom line approach where we're focused on people and planet and profit, and really want people to feel good about what they're doing in the world and feel good about making money in the process. So really, but for those who also don't know, my background also for, a decade plus after college also included education. I was in the theater world and my first business that I owned is a traveling children's theater. So Randy and I also have that in common as educators and what it is like to be educators in our culture and society. And he obviously, you were, a classroom teacher for a long time. And I think that what was interesting too, as we came together and worked together in the way that we have recently, is recognizing how much overlap there is in the work that we do now and being an educator. And I think that I want to unpack that more later in the conversation, but I think that that's part of what drew us together and made it make sense as we were exploring the ways that you needed support. I'm curious too, would you mind to share just a little bit about, and I know I'm asking you to kind of spill the tea a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit about what made you decide to leave teaching and what was kind of going on? I know you mentioned already that you miss your students, but there was just a draw to get out of that work. Can you fill us in a little more?
Yes. Education when I started 13 years ago has drastically changed. Recently, in the last 4 years, it was pre-pandemic, but what ended up when the pandemic happened was it really showcased all of the issues that were happening and exponentially made them worse because we had to deal with all these different things. So a lot of people were blaming the pandemic for a lot of the stuff in education. Really, it was being held together by duct tape and a and a little bit of glue. And that pandemic made it really collapse. And there was just a lot of extras that were happening that was taking me away from what was actually happening in the classroom, and student behaviors and all that. But when you're in the education realm, you're in it for the students. You are in it for those ones. And if you are a former teacher, or if you're a teacher and you're feeling really burnt out, I just want you to ask this question: are you in it for the students? How much longer are you in it for the students? And I want to give you permission that once you're not in it for the students, it's okay to leave. Because if you're just in it for the money, there are other things to do, and money can come in other ways. You're truly there as a servant and for the students. And once I realized, somebody asked me that I wasn't in it for the students, that's when I knew it was time for me to leave. Um, there were major issues. Were just that some of the students were not getting the accommodations that they were needing, and it really hurt me as a person to watch student after student get failed by the system. Me being in middle school, the amount of learned helplessness from being tested since third grade, by the time they get to me, they just all have this mentality of I'm dumb, I'm this, and they're just not. And there's just things in our system and the systemic issues that are happening in education that we're not really talking about, which the big question that we have to answer is, are we teaching what students need? And I think that's the big conversation that we want to have, but we're not having the right conversation, which is really looking at what is being taught and is that valuable to students, because that's also a big issue right now is student apathy. They don't see value in what they're being taught. And we need to kind of take a step back and rethink what is actually being taught so that our students can get more engaged.
Yeah. And I think that that touches on so many directions that we could take this conversation, but I'll try to keep us kind of on track today. But a couple of threads I want to pull on with what you said is that making sure that we're in environments where we are valued and that we're there for the reasons that we of course are all working because we want to make money, need to make money to support ourselves, but also are we in alignment with the values and the mission and direction? That's why I work exclusively with socially conscious businesses, because it matters to me. I don't care what industry people are in. What I care about is, what are your values? What are you trying to create in the world? Just to clarify too, I think that my understanding when you decided to leave your teaching position, it wasn't that you weren't there for the kids. You realized that you were sort of alone on a raft, and that a lot of your coworkers had already checked out, and it was too much of a heavy lift to be the only one there caring the way that you were caring. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. And clarification. I was still in it for the students, but it wasn't enough to keep me going through all of the drama that was happening outside.
Well, because there's brokenness too, like you were saying, there's just so much brokenness in the system. And I think that that's really kind of the power of some of the work that I think we're both doing in the world now, of what can we take control of in order to heal broken systems and or close gaps, because there's so many gaps in the educational system and societal system that people are just not getting the support that they need or deserve. So I think that that's something interesting for us to kind of explore together today too. Now, I know that you mentioned you left teaching, you went into a sales position. And I remember when we first started talking about that, you're like, oh my goodness, it's way less stress. It's way less hours. It's more money. Even out of the gate, I'm making more money than I ever have, which all of that had to have felt good. Am I right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It was a really hard transition because once you've been doing something for so long, you don't know what you actually have to offer. Because a lot of the job descriptions and requirements, you're like, oh, well, I'm not that, or I don't have this. So it kind of limits you in your own thinking. When in actuality, you do have a lot of transferable skills and you have a lot of things to offer to people. So that's something too, if anybody is looking to change fields and things, you do have some skills to be able to transfer to a different community, different vibe. Um,
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. I remember that was something you and I talked about when we first reconnected was some of that you already saw in yourself, and you also got to borrow the belief of your new employer at the time who saw that in you. And I think that was something that we were able to like explore and unpack even further in the time that we worked together, because sometimes it's really hard to see how something that we're already really good at or skilled at can translate into a new environment, a new job, a new area of our life. We just have blind spots, or we just have to like create those new pathways for our brain, right? So recognizing that sometimes it's not about lacking in skill or honing new skills. It's really about, oh, I already do this well. How does that translate over here? I know that when we first started working together, you were pretty new to your sales role. It was a few months. Am I remembering that right? When we connected, and tell us a little bit about what was going well in that job, but also what were some of the things that were creating roadblocks for you as you were thinking about yourself in this new light, this new role, this new label, right? You had been teacher for, over a dozen years, and then now all of a sudden you're a salesperson, and that feels like a weird label, right? So talk to us a little bit about what was going well, what was kind of a struggle, and what was it like to have that sort of like new identity that you were trying on.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is just there's a lot of limiting factors that you put in your brain. And when I worked with you, or before I was working with you, I had a lot of barriers that I put up in myself of like, oh, well, I don't do that, or I don't have training in this, so I'm not good at this. A lot of kind of that defeatist stuff that I realized was just not what was needed in my brain. So a lot of what we worked through was just overcoming a lot of the limiting factors that I had in myself that I didn't even know about. You pointed out some really good things about me, and things really about confidence in yourself and confidence in this. And I think in our society, we think that, oh, I have to have this degree and this label and this certification to do things, and then you limit yourself if you don't have that certification, or you don't have that thing, or if you see, oh, well, this person's been doing it for 15 years, why can't I do it? Well, they've been doing it for 15 years, they know it. I mean, it takes 10,000 hours for you to actually feel comfortable and with a skill. So giving yourself the permission to be at the bottom of the totem pole, be into something new and out of your comfort zone. And then, as you would always point out, I would get really stressed out and kind of take it personally, and especially with feedback and things. And you just told me it's a technical skill. That's all you're doing. You're just refining a technical skill. It has nothing to do with like who you are or what you're doing. You're just learning a technical skill. So, if you were trying to build a house and you didn't know how to use a hammer and nail, you could blame the hammer and nail for not doing it, or you can just say, I need to learn how to do this. This is a technical skill I need to learn. And that level of detachment helped me to overcome a lot of those limiting factors.
I love that. I love that ability to sort of separate yourself, your worth, your value from a technical skill, right? When I'm teaching people or helping people with hiring and team development, that's something I talk about a lot, is that we can't teach people to be them, but it is much easier to teach them technical skills, right? We're looking for people who are the right fit, cultural fit, values fit within organizations, because technical skills can all be learned. And yes, it might take us a bit of time to help with some of that technical learning curve if we have somebody coming in who doesn't necessarily have all of that, but it is much easier and much faster to teach those things than it is to, reinstall values in someone. And so I think that like recognizing that you had all the right skills, first of all, in there. It was just about translating them over, which we already mentioned, and recognizing that, yes, we can't expect to be rock stars at something that we're brand new out of the gate. But as like a recovering perfectionist myself, it is so easy to get in our heads, right? About like, well, we want to be great at it from go. I think that Randy, you and I have this in common, that we were always high achievers in school. We were like straight A kind of students. We were always, and so we were used to getting those pats on the back and things coming easily to us. And maybe even I can speak for myself. I kind of had a learned habit of avoiding the things that didn't come as easily, because we liked that kind of feeling of being told good job and oh, you're amazing at this, right? So recognizing that sometimes we have to have some of that detachment. I think that also just recognizing that like so much can be learned, that we sometimes think are innate. Like I think that like a lot of times I hear people say, oh, I'm just not a salesperson. Or oh, I'm just not a good leader. And it's like those skills, like I think going back to the beginning of our conversation where we say, what are we teaching our students? What are we teaching kids? And is that what we should be teaching? That's some of the questions I ask sometimes, as both an educator and an entrepreneur and a business owner, is, are we teaching the right skills?
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that's where that gap is already happening, is that we haven't taken the time to let people see that those things can be broken down and taught and learned, and that you just need space to hone them and practice them. So I think that that's a little bit of what you and I talked about and worked on together too, is this idea that like, oh yeah, it can be broken down. I just hadn't seen how it could be broken down because nobody had gone on that journey with me before. Does that feel true?
Yes, and I'm really, when you were saying that about I'm not a salesperson, I didn't think I was a salesperson either. I really, what mine was I had the mentality that in order to be in sales, you have to be manipulative. You have to do that, and that was something in our meeting we were very clear about. Like I can't lie and manipulate to people.
Yeah.
That is something in my value system. Like I am not a good liar. I am not good at manipulation. I am not good at that stuff. And you really empowered me to say you don't have to. Sales isn't about manipulation. It's about providing information and educating people on the product and the skill and the passion that whatever service you are doing. And that's something that I really took into heart, because a lot of the little tips and tricks that you gave me were not manipulative and were not a way that I'm trying to, oh, I'm going to force this person to get into a situation that there is not good for them. It's really about, you taught me how to ask really good questions to make sure that at the end of the sale, it's mutually beneficial for all of us, that you end with something that you're happy with, and that I end with my sale and getting the product that I want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. And in fact, like not only you don't have to lie and manipulate, please don't, people. Like that is what makes people feel icky. And realizing too, I think that what you and I spent quite a bit of time on is realizing when we have those experiences and beliefs about sales, that is going to be the number one blocker to us being able to be successful at sales. So whether we're a salesperson within someone else's organization, which is where you started off in your journey with me, or you're a business owner and you are the salesperson within your organization, recognizing that we all have baggage about selling. And most of that baggage comes from being in a society where there has been that lying, there has been manipulation, and we've had a bad taste in our mouth as buyers. And we go, well, I don't want anybody to feel the way I felt in that situation. And so we back all the way off, and we land into this space where going into some communication training that I do with radical candor. If people are familiar with that, radical candor is about challenging directly and being kind at the same time. And when we are being kind without being direct, then that lands in the quadrant of what they call ruinous empathy, and recognizing, I think that that's really where you were landing as a salesperson, is that you were so caring of that person, but you were not necessarily that you were focused so much on that you weren't able to be direct, and that actually kept you from A, being able to sell, but B, really being able to take care of them the way you desired, because your fear of making them uncomfortable actually got in your way of helping them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so, yeah, go ahead.
absolutely. That was something that I really had to work on, getting into that. I pushing through the discomfort, pushing through some of those things to make sure that, people appreciate that more. And I really liked when we talked about that radical candor, because that helped me a lot to say, this is the situation. And, when you get into that point where, it's a sticky situation, this could go either way, keeping direct and keeping short and sweet. And one of my biggest takeaways from you is, as a teacher, I was told and taught that you have to fill the space with everything has to be filled. So when you have that 45 minutes in your lesson, you best have that every minute filled up. So I was just used to over communicating because I knew I needed to fill that space. And one thing that you really taught me was be okay with the silence. And that was one of the bigger things that constantly I would have your voice in my head being like, let them think. You don't need to fill this out. And most of the time, when you give that second, then you ask, what are you thinking? They're going to give you a really honest answer. It's either, yeah, this is the one, we love this, or this is not it. But giving people that time to process was one of my biggest takeaways that I had from you. And I think that was something that definitely made me more successful in the business, just waiting for that pause.
Yeah, I think that that's so powerful. I think that that's another place where you and I have some similar journey, where a desire to take care of people, to make them feel comfortable. One of the ways that we do that is to fill the silence, but recognizing when we are salespeople, or when we are business owners taking people on a buying decision journey, that there has to be space for people to process some of that. And some of that has to happen before you ever are having that conversation and empowering people with information. And I think that that's sort of where people get it wrong too, is this scarcity mindset. So I'm not going to tell you information until you're in front of me so I can convince you. And so I think that recognizing the more that they can those kinds of conversations are about making a decision, not about an information transfer. It can be really powerful, but I think that also just letting people sit and process, that is the kindest, most supportive thing that you can do, and that it is our job as salespeople to hold space. And that is a service, not anything more. In fact, it's the greatest service that we can give them at that time, because you were helping people make decisions about spending thousands of dollars in something that was an investment for a long-term piece of their future, right? And so anytime we're asked to invest a significant amount of money, there is going to be a lot of fear and a lot of uncertainty that people have to move through, and giving people space to do that in a really authentic way, so that they feel empowered to do what's best for them, can make or break a relationship and a sale. And it looks like you had another thought too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that really was something too of building trust with your clients is the number one, because as they're going through these really, really tough decisions that they're making, they're going to have some human moments. And a lot of times when they have those human moments, as we said about some of the other past experiences of sales, a lot of times that turns into anger, or it turns into another undesired kind of outcome that you think, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I like, you start freaking out and second guessing yourself because this person was is kind of angry right now. But really, what it is that they're just going through a human moment right now. They're having a human reaction to this. Their brain is realizing kind of the gravity of the situation, and we always have that voice of, hey, I should I be doing this? Do I need to take time? Do I need to process this? And it's up to us to give them that space to be able to have those human emotions without lashing out.
Yeah.
And that comes with trust. If they trust you, then they can be a little bit more vulnerable with what they're actually feeling and what are their hangups. If they don't trust you, they're just going to start yelling.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Sometimes it's going to turn into that kind of communication. Hopefully not too often, but yes.
Yeah.
I think that like that's a good point too. Is realizing that all of this is about trust and creating space for that trust to be fostered, and recognizing that our brain's job, a huge part of our brain's job, is to keep us safe. And so that's what was coming into play. I think that was getting in your way of feeling courageous about being a salesperson, about really a lot of things, is that like your brain was doing its job. It was saying, danger, danger. We don't want to be unsafe. We don't want to do things that are risky. And so recognizing that sometimes our brains are trying to do their jobs really well, but sometimes it's getting in our way of some of those opportunities, and that as salespeople, we're also helping people walk through that fear and processing that. And so recognizing too that like if we have this cognitive dissonance about what we're doing, whether it's selling or communicating or leading, like if we have the story that selling is bad or selling is icky or manipulative, then our brain is going to protect us from that and say, well, we're not going to do that. And so every time we try, there's going to be some kind of barrier that comes up. And I think that comes with some of the things that we were talking about investing in ourselves and taking risks on ourselves too, right? Is that our brains are there to protect us. And so our brains go, well, that's dangerous. And I think that, or what if it doesn't turn out the way we desire? And the stories that kind of develop out of that. I think that probably one of the most powerful things I've heard people say that keep them from saying yes is the fear of like just not having the financial resources, and or really this fear of what if I invest and I'm worse off than I was before. Not only do I not get what I want, but I'm worse off than I was before. And I think that there was some of that was bubbling under the surface as you were deciding whether or not to work with me. And I think that you saw that also bubbling under the surface of the people that you were serving too. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like, what was that like when you were kind of on that cusp of saying, okay, this is a skill that I want support on. This is something that I'm interested in getting help on, but you were still kind of moving through that fear of the unknown and the fear of investing. Talk to us a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, how I was watching a lot of your videos, and I was really impressed with what you were saying. And like the place I was working, they were training me, but I just didn't feel like I was getting the directed approach of what I was looking for. So as I kind of saw you and I know your vibe, I knew that you would get me and be able to help me through that process, because you simply just know me and know my situation. And a lot of times I would always just say, you just read me like a book right there. In our conversations, I bet if we went back in our emails, a lot of them was just like, yep, you figured that out. Yep, that's totally right. So you really just offered an authenticity. And really one of the things that you said to me was just, you have to invest in yourself. And I that was something that was a really big struggle for me, is I was always used to putting myself into others and being the servant and really putting everybody else first, in my students and everything, and making sure that everybody else was taken care of, and before I ever took care of myself, which is not a good and healthy situation to be in. Just FYI, friends. You need to be making sure that you put your mask on before you put other people's mask on, like in the airplanes. So I wanted to put my mask on and figure out what it was. And really a lot of it was just you helping me overcome a lot of my own brain's stereotypes, whatever was going on in my brain, and really making it into this is just this. Not it's not this and this and this and this and this, which is what my brain was doing. You're just like, it's this.
Yeah.
And put yourself, and once I actually made that decision to invest in myself, it was scary. It was scary to go, okay, I'm gonna do this because I'm not. It's a very uncomfortable thing to put that money um, into yourself, into that. But overall, I had such a great experience, and I was really glad that I made the change, and glad that I made the investment.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad to hear it. And I think that like I'm curious as you were talking about like watching my videos, feeling like I understood and got you, even when I wasn't like in actual conversation with just you, right? And then our back and forth as you were exploring possibly working with me. What do you mind speaking? Do you have any memories of any of the specificity around that like just helped you know that I was your person and that I was going to be the one that you wanted to get support from? And because like you said, you were already getting training and support from the people that you were working with, but it wasn't getting you the results and it wasn't the kind of support that you were needing. So what made you believe that I was the person that who could help you with that?
I think it was the one of the videos I remember that you did was on quiet quitting. And that was something that I was like, okay, I've been hearing that term a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of person. I am one that wants to work hard. And that was one reason I left teaching, was because a lot of the people I realized were doing that quiet quitting. And I basically had an impasse of, do I learn how to do this quiet quitting kind of thing, or do I go into something else? And my choice was to go into something else because I couldn't put in that energy. And I remember that video was really powerful to bring a lot of the verbiage and the words to what I was feeling and what I was describing and what it actually does to other people when you have a team that is all pretty much quiet quitting. It's really tough. And that was one where I, in your videos, I felt very validated and I felt like you understood and had the perspective that I shared. And then you were able to really give me the words to say, this feeling is caused from this.
Yeah.
And that helped a lot.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the things that makes me maybe a little bit of a weirdo when it comes to being a business owner and a leader is that a lot of my videos, I do focus on like, what is the experience of the person working for me or for these other businesses? And I think that that I think was part of what was drawing you in, is I was like, this is why people are behaving this way. Like it's not about fixing quote unquote bad behavior in our employees. It's about understanding why are they doing this quote unquote thing that people are calling quiet quitting, and what is the gap there. And so I'm glad that supported you and helped you feel seen and validated and that I understood. I think that and I'm curious, I don't know if I've asked you this. If so, I haven't asked you recently. Before investing and working with me, had you made any significant investment in yourself outside of going to school and getting your degree?
I mean, other than maybe buying a house, like the commodities of it, yeah. Other than that, no, I really hadn't.
Yeah. And I think that that's really common, is that I think our culture, I think there's a little bit of this starting to shift, but I think that our culture right now puts such an emphasis on the only kind of investment in ourselves, especially the only kind of investment that we can go into debt for, is education, right? And so there's like guilt or shame or feeling like it's somehow bad debt if you choose to spend money on yourself and invest in yourself if it's not to get some kind of degree or certification. I'm curious, and I think that some of that was maybe coming up for you too. And when we were looking at working together too, I have a wide range of services that I offer and investment points, because I very much value accessibility. I also very much value people getting the right amount of support and at the time that they need it. So like sometimes people work with me for a year plus. Sometimes that looks like, multiple 5 figures and working with entire teams. Sometimes that means a one and done session that is, 3 or 4 figures, And so I think that like when you and I came together, we knew it was going to need to be in that smaller range, just because of the practicality of where you were in your life, your finances, but then also just what your comfort level was and your ability to trust in yourself and invest in yourself, right? And even at those lower investment levels, that was really scary, I think, for you. And I just want to like normalize that. I think that like sometimes people get shamed for like, well, it's only, this much money. It's only $500. It's only $1,500. It's only $5,000. But any amount of like, we get to decide what's a whole lot of money. That's something I learned from my mentor, and my relationship to money has shifted significantly because my mentorship and understanding that like, A, we're worth it. We're worth investing in. And B, that like not all, I'm not saying that everyone should go out and take giant amounts of loans and debt out. I want people to feel like they're making responsible decisions. But I think that we often buy into a false narrative that we have to wait until we have the money in order to do something big and make big changes in our life. But the reality is, how are we ever going to have the resources and the money to make those big shifts in reality in our life if we don't take some of that initial risk? And so I'm curious, what was your experience moving through that decision and knowing, okay, I'm looking at working with Cassandra. We also were looking at a short amount of time too. Like we ended up, just for those who are watching either now, say hello if you're watching now, let us know you're with us, and or if you're catching the replay. But I'm curious, what I wanted to share first before I ask the question is that Randy and I only worked together for what I was calling at that time a VIP day. It was a half-day session, calibrated action sessions that I'm calling them now. And we got 4 hours together and then another half hour later. And so that was really all that you were investing in. So talk about like, what was it like knowing that you were investing in such a short amount of time? And what was it like moving through the decision to finally say, okay, yes, Cassandra, I'm ready to do this for myself?
Yeah, I think at first I was looking at, what do I need? And I didn't think that I needed regular support from there. I think that would be very valuable to a lot of businesses and things to have somebody to come in and give them that support. I really just needed a training session and kind of I didn't really know what I needed until I got it. And then once we did it, I was like, okay, then if I need more, I can always get more. But this was kind of let's see what the situation is. And yeah, we spent about 4 hours together, and it was a roller coaster ride. I think we did have to take a break just to have like a mental thing, because we got deep.
Yeah.
We went in 4 hours. We went through sales pitch, word tracks, and then went into asking for the sale, getting into the sale, and you just went through the whole process of sales, and you gave me the freedom to be able to go through the process that I know really well, and we were like, okay, yeah, you're cool with that. And then once we got into the hang-ups, you were able to really get in here and say, here is your own, as I've been saying, a lot of limiting factors. Here is your limiting factors that you need to process through. And that's something that is really valuable to me, because I knew that there was something in my brain that was stopping me, and I didn't know what. And you pointed out a lot of those things that once those were pointed out and I worked on, things got so much easier for it.
Yeah, and
it's
so powerful to have somebody kind of come alongside us and like help us see those things. I really love the phrase that like you can't read the label from inside the bottle. Like we're sometimes just too close to our own stuff, even when it's stuff that we're good at. I continuously get coaching, training, mentorship, even in my areas of expertise, because just like muscles, if we aren't using them, they're atrophy. We experience atrophy. I don't know. Yeah. I think that's how to say it. I don't know if I conjugated that word the way I wanted. But like, and also recognizing that like we are going to get stuck sometimes. We're too close to our own work and our own just like mental I don't know, garbage sometimes to be frank. I have it too, right? And recognizing that like having someone come alongside us and help us work through that, and it really is that balance of like that radical candor where like and I think that like just to be really honest with you, Randy, like because we have a history of a friendship and knowing each other for so long, and then obviously a gap of time where we weren't really in touch, there was fear even for me to say, okay, I have to say some hard truths and I have to speak into what I'm seeing because it is in service of you and your well-being and what you came to get support on, even if it was a little uncomfortable to hear and work through. And I'm so glad to hear that like in the long run, it was in service of not even the long run. It sounds like in the short run, you were able to move through that quickly. What was life on the other side like? So we met in November. I think it was like mid-November. So like that was only like 4 months ago. First of all, 4.5 months ago. Then you were applying what we had done in the work that you were doing at that time. What was that like? What shifted for you? How quickly did it shift? What did you notice was different about your work, your life, your approach to sales?
Yeah, I think first, just on like a personal level, you really taught me, and this is something that I didn't realize was happening in my education system, was I would internalize a lot of the systemic issues as I did something wrong. I need to work harder. I need to do better. And what you really pointed out to me and made me feel a lot better about was there are systemic issues that are happening that are outside of your control. And no matter how perfect you are, there are just things that are going to go wrong, and learning to be okay with those. I'm still working on that. Still working on that because I am such a I love things to go perfect, and they don't all the time. So
Sure.
you have to really work on being okay with the imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think was the first big takeaway that I personally took from that. And then a lot of the technical skills that we would go, and I would just constantly have you in my head being like, let them think, give them the second, affirm that one, and pushing through that uncomfortableness. I'm still working on this, on the sticky situations and like that radical candor, because that's something that I need to personally overcome still, and that can't overcome that in 4 months. But I'm getting better at it. I used to shy away from a lot of the scariness if the situation got a little uncomfortable. But now I'm getting better at, this is the situation that I'm in, and this is what service I need to provide. And they might not like this situation. And this saying this might actually lose the sale for me, but it's what's best for them in this moment, because I want to have them make the most informed decision for themselves.
Yeah. And recognizing that like having the space to be able to, I lost it. Come back to me, thought. You were saying so many good things. I was trying to hold on to it and it's gone. You were saying about being able to move through your own perfectionism and like things needing to be just so and kind of being released from that. There are things that are outside of our control, and I think it's that balance. There it is, there's the thread of like really like a cornerstone of my belief is that there's this balance between radical candor, which is one aspect, but really it's this balance between radical care and radical responsibility. And there are things that we as a society need to take radical individual responsibility for. And there are things that we need to take radical care of one another for, and radical care of ourselves. And I think that like that is when we are able to hit all of that balance to say there are things that I have a lot of control over, more than I even recognize. And I'm going to take control of those things. And there are a lot of things that are outside of my control. And I'm going to release myself from the pressure of having to be the one who's trying to solve for things that are honestly, I can't even solve, right? They're outside of my control. So I think that like that's an important piece of it. And what did you notice in terms of like just your ability, like just like skill wise, like closing rate wise, like oh, that was the other thing, but I'm going to let you answer that question. What did you notice happened, and how quickly did that happen for you as you started applying the technical skills that we talked about?
Oh, I definitely. What I noticed was a lot of the technical things actually built a lot more trust in my clients. So my ability to help the client and really give them the service that they needed helped a lot because we were able to have all those discussions. And I realized that I was being a little, not servicing them enough by not giving them the space to also kind of process through a lot of those tough hangups. A lot of times, if you just graze over, oh, that's a sticky situation, we'll come back to that or we'll do that, it's going to come back and bite you. And having those conversations is something that I mean, they're still tough, they're still scary to go through, but it also, you're modeling to your client, this is how I respond to objections. This is how I respond to how things are going. And most people are going to realize that something's going to go wrong. It's how you pick it up and how you put those pieces back together that's more important to your client than, oh, this happened. Most people, and that was something in my limiting factor, is, oh my gosh, they're going to hate it. That it isn't perfect. I got to fix this. And they're going to be so mad at me because this, they weren't mad at the situation. They were mad that this is happening. But at the end, it was really how I responded to that. And once I responded and they knew that I was going to take care of it, that I was going to do this, then there was no issue. Now, if I would have said, go away,
Yeah.
then there would have been an issue.
Right. And it is that balance, right, of that care and responsibility. You were showing radical care and radical responsibility in the places that it made sense. And I think that like recognizing too, I know we've talked a lot about giving people space, and part of that was coming from a place of like over caring and so filling time and silence. But I also think that part of the flip side of what I think you learned to do, and I think that has really added to your success recently, is also the flip side of not letting the things that need to be unsaid or need to be said be left unsaid. And so I think that like that was where you were like kind of leaking some of those sales and ability to support people too, is that you wanted to give space where they needed conversation, and conversation where they needed space. And so finding that balance of being like, okay, it's time to ask them directly. I'm not going to just let them go think about it and come back to me. And I think like that, just as just like a quick side note that I think that people just don't realize, and I know that we talked about when we worked together, is that like 90% of people won't buy unless they're directly asked, even when they're ready to make the purchase. And I think that like that's just something that as a salesperson, as a business owner, we have to like just ingrain in us, is going, people need us to initiate. People need us to ask. It is not rude. It is not pushy. It is giving them the guidance and leadership they need to go, oh, it's time to do the thing, right? And so I think that that was a shift that I saw in you too, of like, yes, giving them time to think, but also not letting them walk away and not making that offer directly, right?
Yeah, that was our asking for the sale conversation, and that was a tough one because I struggled with just going into, will you buy this? Will you do that? Because it felt really out there to do. And what I realized was there was very few instances that I actually had to flat out ask. But you can ask for the sale in different ways. You don't have to flat out. That was something that was a big takeaway for me. You don't have to be like, are you ready to buy this? Are you going to do this? Are you like that can get into pushiness. But when you ask them, how do you feel about this right now? How do you feel about this situation? Does this work for you? Those, I didn't realize those kind of questions aren't asking for the sale. They are just not saying, will you buy this?
Right.
But is this, are you comfortable with this? And you're not, then let's make this happen. And most of the time, once you resolve those and have a really nice discussion, you'll get the sale, or you'll get a reason why that's not, and what they're looking for next. And then if the no, you're gonna hear no a lot, but you take no as I changed my mentality of no is I'm gonna follow up with you. That's no is this, it's not this, and that's okay. This moment is not it.
Yeah.
So let's follow up, because yes might be later, and most of the time people need a partner in the situation too. And it sometimes you like, I would always have clients that I would go, I'm going to get this person to do this person, we're going to be in the long game. We're going to be in the long game, because they need to think about it. And I think it's sometimes people get a little mean to people who do ask for, I'm going to need a couple months to process this sale. I'm going to need to slow burn into it. And I think a lot of the sales mentality was, oh, we got to get them right now. But yeah, you do want to, but you're also putting future sales too. So you kind of say, this is 2 months from now, Randy's. We're just going to deal with that later. But we're going to be part of the partnership, and we're going to be starting to build with the trust, because if you are their go-to, they're gonna ask you for help. They're gonna ask you for the stuff that you need, and then most likely are gonna purchase from you, or give you a review. It will happen. It will happen. I've had people say no and buy somewhere else and send me a couple people because they were like, he's so good. Just go check him out first.
And I feel like that's happened for some of my other clients before too, where like they took such good care and authentic care of people that like they were maybe not the right fit at the right time for that particular person, that particular client or prospect, but because they had built genuine trust that and care, they still got business from it. It just didn't look the way that they initially thought it might. And I think that like your point of like, it's not again reaching for something that my business mentor talks about a lot, is that this idea that like we're not planting all the same seeds all the time. Strawberries harvest very quickly in a few months, and pineapples take like, I think it's like, I don't know, like 18 months, maybe longer. And recognizing that like not every seed we're planting is a strawberry seed. Like sometimes we have to be nurturing those pineapples, and at some point it's going to be pineapple season. And certainly that is not my phrase. That is me borrowing from several business mentors and business industries, but like recognizing that like it's okay that not everything is a strawberry. I think that like recognizing too that you didn't make any major shifts, meaning like, let me rephrase that. It wasn't like you came in and worked with me and said, I'm going to work on this one skill and make this one big change. It was about all of these small incremental changes, these calibrations in how you have this part of the conversation, how you approach that part of the conversation, how do you follow up, how do you nurture, like, and so we were making all of these tiny calibrated adjustments. Does that feel true?
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of what it was pointing out also my strengths too. And I left with a really good notes of here are my strengths and here are the things I need to work on. And you really helped me to go, you have these strengths, use them to help with your weaknesses, as opposed to focusing in on your weaknesses, because that hurts you mentally. It beats you down because you're like, be better. Yeah. But you're not going to be better. You're already good at this. So use this and transfer that over to this one and use that. So when I got into some of those uncomfortable situations, that was really what I was doing. Use your strengths to overcome this situation, not just I got to learn how to get this situation. Reflection is good, but you have it in you.
Yeah. And I think that recognizing that, like, when we make all of these small incremental changes, it's not just that it is adding up, it is compounding. And so when you're able to improve 1%, 2% here, 4% here, 2% here, it's not that it's all of those numbers added up, it's all of those numbers added up and then compounded. And that is what the work that I do, whether, like, obviously you came to me for a point solution. You wanted to work on sales. I think that, like, it touched a lot of other areas of your life and your professional career in ways that neither of us were necessarily expecting. But recognizing whether we're coming in to work on point solutions, like something specific like sales, or broader picture, like just growth development in a business or leadership or operations that are much broader scope. All of those incremental changes are what really adds up to huge success. It's not, I think that there's this idea that sometimes it's about having to come in and make these major overhauls or focus on this one specific thing that we're going to change just this and it's going to make all the difference. And in reality, the way that we get to the best level of success is optimizing, calibrating in all of those incremental ways that we already have access to. Like you said, you already have the skills, you already have the strengths. It's about just making it 1% better here, 2% better there, and seeing how that rippled out. And I think that, like, before we got on our live today, I asked you, were you able to quickly make back your investment in working with me through the skills that we worked on? And I see you shaking your head again.
Yeah.
Yes, but like, but that was a fear, right? That you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. So like, how does it feel knowing that, like, you made an investment in November? I don't know how quickly, I don't know if you know, do you know how quickly you were able to just to make back your investment in working with me?
It was a couple months, and I did some work to make sure that I pulled it down. But yeah, it was something of just, it was good for me, is in many ways, and mentally, all of the different stuff helped, and it broadened my perspective so that I can actually start this new journey. But I do have a little sidebar. I have some advice for some management slash administration slash that. I'm a kind of person that when I'm a deep thinker, and I think about the things, and I am looking at the root causes to this. And I would encourage managers and people to make sure that you're not just focusing in on the symptoms. You're not just trying to cure the symptoms and make it go away, because that was one of the major reasons that I just kind of figured out in this call was why I left education, was because when I would go to my administration and say, this is the problem, and I would offer solutions, often my solutions were at the root of the problem, which is really difficult. And I understand that it's hard to deal with those ones, but I did not feel valued then when I was bringing these concerns up, because all I felt like was we are dealing with the symptom in front of us. The symptom in front of us is done and we're gone. But the symptom kept happening because we didn't handle the root of the problem. Yeah. And that was something I really hope that managers take that away from there and realize that there's people who are deep thinkers and deep processors. And if somebody who never complains all of a sudden has some complaints for you, they've been thinking about that for a while, speaking from experience. Sure. They've been processing this. And my process is, how can I fix myself? And then once I can't fix myself because the situation is happening, then I'm looking at the root cause of those things. And probably that's why some of my administrations were probably too happy with me, because I was pointing out situations that if we handled this better, all of these symptoms would go away. Mm-hmm. And they were only focused on keeping the symptoms at bay and not preventing the symptoms. So be open, if you are in administration or management, to be able to have those conversations about the root causes with people, because people like me don't feel valued if you just shoo us away because you fixed the symptom.
Yeah.
We want to fix the problems so that those symptoms don't happen again and again and again.
Well, and that's why it's so important, like as a business leader, as an owner, a manager, wherever you are kind of falling in that world, is that we are needing and wanting to cultivate relationships with what I call entrepreneur. It's not my term, but like what I like to reach for the term entrepreneur, because some of us are entrepreneurs. We're out there creating businesses, but some people have no desire to have their own business, and that's cool. Some people desire to be in alignment with something they believe in, and they want to support and do work that is valued, and recognizing that we want to cultivate those entrepreneurs who are inside these organizations. And what you were saying doesn't just apply to management, like thinking about like even going back to sales. I think so often people come in and they want to learn sales skills, or they want to learn certain things, and when you're not dealing with the root causes of some of those like limiting factors, limiting beliefs, mindset things, all you're doing is masking symptoms. You're taking cold medicine and you feel a little better and it works for a while, but there's still something underneath it, right? And so it's not that you shouldn't take the cold medicine. Sure, like do something that can help with the symptom right now, cool. But if that's all you're doing, that problem is going to continue to get worse. And I think that that's what happens a lot of times when I'm looking from the operational side of businesses, is that we are seeing people who have used, I think you said it at the very beginning, where there are duct tape solutions, right? And duct tape is great. It is a great tool. It is a great resource. There's a reason why we have duct tape, but it only works for so long, and only in certain situations. And then it is time to replace the duct tape. And so often people are not willing to replace the duct tape with more permanent solutions. Again, no shame in duct taping things. There are things in my own businesses that are duct tape, and I go, it's good enough for now. It's holding. Thank goodness for duct tape. But when we rely on building an entire business or an entire system on duct tape and expect it to hold, then what you're doing is breaking the people who are holding the duct tape together. And that's the thing that we have to realize as leaders, whether it's in business or in society or in our own life, like when we are expecting duct tape to hold things together, what we're really doing is breaking the people who are holding that together for us. So yeah, I think that we've talked a lot. I know we've been going for an hour, but I would love in our last few minutes together, if you have the time, just tell us what, like, you have made some big exciting shifts even in the last few weeks that I think, again, there's some of that compounding success that came from, again, us having 1 4-hour session and another 30-minute session after that. Tell us, what are you doing now, Randy, and what kind of springboarded you into that?
Yeah. Well, I've always just had the desire to start my own business and do things for myself. And I didn't think I was capable, honestly, before. I thought the only way that you're going to make money is find a job and do the things that it was. And that's what I was doing. But it wasn't fulfilling for me. And I really had to do some self-reflection and think about, what do I want? And what I want is control. So I've been researching starting my own businesses, and I'm going to be starting my own fingerprinting business in my local area. So I'm very excited. I'm still very, very new to it, but I have left my current profession so that I can take a chance on me. And I was going through the process of getting a little nervous about it, and your voice popped in my head and said, make the investment for yourself. Because you want to do it. I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I just needed the push to go. Let's take this and the right opportunity to do.
Yay, I love it. I am so proud and excited for you. I can't wait to see how this next chapter unfolds. And I love how you went from, like, in November being like, sales, I hate it, I'm not a salesperson, to this is something that I am embracing and that I can be good at, that I am good at. And then taking the ultimate leap of, like, I'm not going to be a salesperson. I'm going to be the salesperson because I'm starting my own business. And like, I think that that's something that people don't realize too. But I think that you did, because of the journey that you took of, like, being your own business owner. Like, that is one of the many hats you're putting on as a solopreneur, is that you're the sole salesperson, but now you're set up for all of that success. And I'm really excited to hear how it unfolds. Also, what's exciting, Randy, I just want to congratulate you in so many ways. But another thing is that, like, I know, like, investing and working with me for our half day was such a big hurdle for you, emotionally, financially. And I am honored that you let me walk through that process with you. But also, this investment and this leap that you've made now is like, I don't know, 8 or 10 times fold what you did just like 4 months ago that you were so like nervous about. How does that feel to be able to like take that kind of like, again, that compounding success of like, oh my gosh, it was so scary to invest in myself in this way, and look how it turned out. Okay, now I'm going to dial that up to like 8, 10 times, and now you're doing something even bigger to invest in yourself. What's
Yeah,
that like?
it's excitement and nervousness all at the same time. So I'm really excited because I know I can do what I need to do. I know I can push it. I know I have the skills because I got the confidence now to be able to do that. I'm just nervous that I didn't pick the right opportunity. So, and if that happens, then it is what it is. I'll find something else. I'll do somewhere new, but that's really where I'm at. I'm excited and nervous at the same time.
Well, and I'll say this, I feel like you chose the right opportunity because it's what's in front of you, and there is lesson to be learned here, and skill, and knowledge to be gained here. So I think that like that's what's beautiful, is that it only is that there's no, like I said, I think before we got on, like this idea on live and ask everybody to join the conversation with us, is that like there's not a chance for you to fail. There's just a chance for you to learn. And the investment is what you're going to make of it. I believe that you're going to have wild success no matter what. Fingers crossed. I hope it unfolds in the ways that you're imagining. But even if it doesn't, what's exciting is that you've just set yourself on this trajectory that you're going to be able to grow and learn and really create the life that you desire because of the type of investment that you've decided to make in yourself, and the courage and the trust that you've put in yourself. So I'm just so excited for you, and I can't wait to catch up and hear more about how all of that is going. I would say one last question I would have for you to wrap us out today is if there's somebody who is kind of on that like cusp of thinking about working with me, who would you say are the right kinds of people, and what would your advice be if somebody is sort of sitting on that cusp the way that you did for a while?
Um, it's a tough choice, and you have to really do what is best for you at the end of the day. But I will tell you that Cassandra helped me so many ways because, as I was saying, I was like, I'm so new to sales. I don't even know if this is something I'm interested in. I don't even know if this is something that I'm wanting in my life. And there was no judgment from you. It was, well, here's what the skills are. You empowered me that you can do that. And if I can overcome that, I can overcome a lot more challenges. So it's really just looking at it as I need an outside person who's not at work, who doesn't understand the politics, doesn't understand what it is, to tell me what is the situation and really coach me through that situation and really go there. Because, I would say if you are not willing to go there, you're not going to get as much. And I went in not thinking that I was ready to go there, but I didn't know where we were going to go. And we went some places that I wasn't really prepared for. But if you are going to work with Cassandra, be open and ready to really go there because the stuff that she points out is really sticky and icky in your own brain, and you have to really kind of take a moment after to process it. But overall, it really helps it. And in those limiting factors, she pointed those things out to me that I can actually work on and actually overcome them that I don't think I could have done. I think I would have stayed in that same spinning and the same I'm crappy at sales. I'm all this negative junk that was in my head. You helped me overcome those things so that I can, when I was thinking about what do I going to do? What do I want to do? Everything kept going into I want to open my own business. And I don't think I could have gotten that without you. So I thank you very much. And I really encourage anybody, if you are struggling, do the sessions. 4 hours, you will have journey, and you will come out better, and you will have a lot of tangible things to work on.
Yay. Thank you so much, Randy. And I think that one of the things I appreciated about going on this journey with you is that, like, because I knew that you were wanting to work with me on sales skills, and I was also walking you through making a decision about working with me and investing. I used our own journey. Like, I pointed out the fact that I was not perfect in our journey either. And I was like, look at here and here, where like it was more about like focusing on our journey together in the relationship. And I hope that me pointing out my own imperfections helped you go, yes, I don't have to be perfect in this either. I just have to be intentional and care. And I think that you also helped inspire me to create a new version of a new version of the offerings that I have, because I was already offering these half day sessions with people, but I was doing it all one-on-one, and I love doing that, especially when people are really wanting to dive in on specific skills, or really want to be dialed in on their very specific business or situation. But I also recognize that I could be taking people on a similar journey in a group setting. So tomorrow is my first one of those. So thank you. I'm very excited. So basically just taking the calibrated action session and turning it into a group setting. I have a lot of experience teaching in group settings, and I've done group coaching before, and it just hadn't occurred to me how I would be able to morph that into, oh my goodness, we could do this in a group. So if there are people who are watching now or who are catching the replay before March 30th at 9 a.m., there are still a few seats left. It's something that I'm going to be running more often, probably once a quarter. And so if you're not able to grab a seat this time, let me know that you're interested, and I'm happy to chat with you about it. I still do offer them as one-on-ones the way that I did with Randy. So if that is something that you're interested in individualized support, I do have space in my calendar between now and May. I have some spots open. May is when my prices are going up. And so I have probably about 4 spots, I think is what I figured out, maybe only 3 at this point that are available for that. But if people are interested in doing a single one-on-one session, it's only $1,500 right now between now and May 1st. If you want to join us for tomorrow, it's only $500 for a seat. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be also inspired by you to create a new offering in ways that I can be even more accessible and help more people. And hopefully maybe I'll bring you back in a few months and like do another chat about how things are unfolding, because I'm excited to keep following your journey.
Because you have a holistic approach to this. And I would encourage, if anybody is going to do that, be ready that we're not just, you might say, I need to focus on sales, which we did. We did that, but we went into all of the factors. It's not just a sales workshop. You're not going through that. You can find those at other places if you want to refine a very specific skill. Cassandra really works with you holistically as a person, as your own. She gets in there, and be prepared to go there with her, because it's not just we practiced our sales skills. We talked about sales skills, but we also talked about all the different things and protecting yourself, so that you can go home at the end of the day, recharge. All of those things were things that we talked about, and those helped me. That holistic approach helped me way more than if we just sat there and said, let's sell this.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to wrap up there because I actually have a client call to jump into now, but it was so good to see you, Randy. Thank you again for your time, and I will talk to you soon. Everyone, have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me.